Yo, and what is up, gang? Thank you for checking out Sledgehammer TV today. The Women's Battle Royal to determine the number one contender to Rhea Ripley's NXT UK Women's Championship. The Dusty Classic provides us with two of the greatest tag team matches of the year so far, and the Undisputed Era wreaks havoc trying to protect their prophecy from being broken by Keith Lee and Tommaso Ciampa. All of that and so much more making up an episode of NXT which once again proves them to be the superior brand in professional wrestling, bar none. And we are going to talk about it right here and right now. My name is Nick Nightmare and you are watching the Sledgehammer Wrestling Show's NXT review and reaction show. Let's do it.
Sledgehammer Wrestling Show.
There is a lot going on right now at NXT. They have got the Dusty Classic kicking off on all cylinders. They have got When Worlds Collide that they are building towards, and are also building towards NXT TakeOver Portland, and none of it feels mashed together. Everything feels like it has a direction. Everything was put together very well in an episode of NXT this week that just stole the show from everybody else. It doesn't matter what the ratings reflect on TV. What reflects to me is the quality of professional wrestling that they provided to us all night long. The very, very well thought out planning of all the storytelling involved, and every single matchup that took place on this night having some sort of a very powerful implication to it, whether it be crowning a number one contender in the women's division, a new number one contender for the Cruiserweight Championship, or advancing forward in the Dusty Classic. Everything had meaning, everything felt absolutely fantastic. The wrestling was top notch, and NXT continues to prove to be the gold standard in pro wrestling. All that being said, I do have a few minor things that I want to talk about in regards to the main event of the evening, the Women's Battle Royal. The Women's Battle Royal, to me, as good as it was, it had some very good spots. Everybody got to shine a little bit, but I feel like they made one very huge error. And that huge error is not so much that they brought in a lot of faces that nobody's really familiar with. You're talking about crowning a number one contender for the NXT Women's Champion. And you have people in there like Indy Hartwell and Jessie Kamea, who I don't even know. I don't think I've ever seen them before. And if I have, they certainly did not do anything to stamp themselves into my brain and was relevant enough to be worth remembering. Then you have returning superstars like Casey Catanzaro and Tegan Nox, which sure we know of them, but do they really deserve a shot at the championship? Let's be honest. Let's be fair here. You have Kaden Carter, who everybody knows. She has actually been wrestling on NXT lately, but has she been winning? Is she deserve a number one contender opportunity? Shotzi Blackheart, sure, she's an indie darling. Sure, everybody knows who she is. She's really cool with her green hair and she looks like a badass, but does she deserve to have a shot at the championship? She's barely been around for a blip. I think the mistake that was really made was involving Shayna Baszler in this battle royal. Everybody's talking about Shayna being the one that's going to end up winning the Women's Royal Rumble this year. And that's only 1 week from this Sunday. And if that truly is the plan, then I think it would have been a lot more impactful if Shayna Baszler was kept off of television. Especially if she was not going to win this battle royal. She wanted to show up and gain another opportunity at a rematch with Rhea Ripley, so that she could become Shayna 3 times. And while that does make sense, if the goal is to move her on, then it would have been better if she was just completely off the radar. And then she shows up as the surprise in the Royal Rumble. While that still will be effective because we know NXT is going to be involved in the Rumble, and obviously Shayna Baszler is going to be in it. She's the heavy favorite to win it all. So why not leave the mystique? Why have her in there instead of using this opportunity to take all of these new fresh faces and truly give them a moment to shine? You know, as soon as you see Shayna Baszler, she's going to dominate the majority of this Battle Royal, then somebody's going to surprisingly eliminate her. And now I'm fearful that this is going to lead to some new angle for Shayna on NXT, or that she's going to now have a match at TakeOver Portland or something, and really what they needed to do is just keep her off TV until she ends up in the Rumble, hopefully ends up winning the Rumble, and finds herself headed towards WrestleMania for a great main roster debut. But they didn't go that route. They should have definitely narrowed this thing down. Maybe if they would have did a 12-woman battle royal instead of just throwing everybody that they could out there. Chelsea Green chose not to even participate in this thing on her own merit. She's like above this battle royal for some reason with her Robert Stone brand thing going on. But I think it would have been better if they would have. You still could have had a surprise. You could have had Mercedes Martinez in there. She's a veteran of how many years. You could have made the case that she's at least worthy of being in this battle royal. You could have had Candice LeRae, Bianca Belair, Mia Yim, Io Shirai. You know, all of the women that are truly the main stars of the NXT women's division. And I think it maybe would have came off better. It was very fast-paced, the Battle Royal. It was very hard to follow, and it was a little bit confusing at times. I didn't know who was who, so you can't fault even a professional like Mauro Ranallo for getting lost in this match when you couldn't follow along yourself. Especially when there were girls, as I made mention of before, like Jessie Kamea and an Indy Hartwell, who I'm just sitting out there going like, who is that? I don't know who that is. And at times you would think they were somebody else, and then no, that's that girl that I don't know. And it was just a little bit confusing. Kacy Catanzaro had a couple of great spots in this matchup. Shayna Baszler, as I mentioned, she came in here and she dominated for the most part. But thankfully, the winner of this thing ended up to be one of my favorites, a very deserving person in my opinion, which is Bianca Belair. She's already had some heat with Rhea Ripley on the build to Rhea Ripley actually becoming the women's champion. And now Bianca Belair surviving this battle royal, being next in line, it's great. I think it's fantastic, and I'm looking forward to her matchup with Rhea Ripley at TakeOver Portland. Does anybody expect Bianca Belair to pull the upset of the year out? I certainly don't, but I know it's going to be an entertaining match. It's definitely going to elevate her status, and it is great for the future of Bianca Belair. And I'm looking forward to it. The Battle Royal itself was entertaining at times, but it was just so overpopulated. It was a little bit messy. But I give it forgiveness because they gave us a good winner. And it's going to lead up to a great match and a great first matchup as champion, or second as it were, because When Worlds Collide is happening before TakeOver Portland. So it'll be her first NXT TakeOver going up against the Bianca Belair. Can't ask for much more than that as far as the women are concerned. But let's turn our attention to the men, and let's start this review off with how this show really transpired, which it started off right from the get-go, high octane and very entertaining, as we started this show with Keith Lee coming out to cut a promo in the ring, but it would quickly be turned against him. As we made mention in the open, the Undisputed Era had it on their minds to prove that Keith Lee actually has some limits, and they wanted to place limits on his mobility going into his big matchup with Roderick Strong next week for the North American Championship. Tommaso Ciampa thankfully would come out and help quell the threat of the Undisputed Era and would send them packing. Stuck up for Keith Lee in the moment, and Keith Lee was devastatingly attacked by the Undisputed Era. Unfortunately, Ciampa would be too late, and the damage would be done, as they would do the Brian Pillman to Keith Lee's ankle. Now, if you don't know what that is is the Undisputed Era set up Keith Lee's ankle in a folding chair, and then Roderick Strong took off from the second rope and stomped that folding chair, causing some tremendous damage to the ankle of Keith Lee. How much damage is it going to play a part in the matchup when they finally clash for the North American Championship? That remains to be seen, but that was certainly the intention of the Undisputed Era here, to just make sure this big guy who's coming in as the favorite, who's going to be a very tough mountain for Roderick Strong to climb, they wanted to knock him down a peg, and they certainly accomplished that mission. You know what? While we're talking about the Undisputed Era, I just want to throw something out there. I hate when people call them the UE. 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 When you say UE to me, I feel like I'm watching DuckTales, and I'm looking for Dewey and I'm looking for Louie, because I'm not looking at wrestling and here, UE. Oh, it's UE. Not UE. They're the Undisputed Era. Say it. You don't have to shorten everything into an acronym. We're not the internet. You don't have to say letters. You can say your words. UE. The name's not UE. They're the Undisputed Era. That's good. Or at least if you need to shorten it, just call them Undisputed. It's fine. It's really fine. Just wanted to throw that out there. But this was an excellent opening segment. Fans were all over it. They are clearly behind Keith Lee, and I'm looking forward to everything going forward here. And we got Mauro Ranallo telling everybody about Johnny Gargano versus Finn Balor being booked for TakeOver Portland on February 16th. That's going to be a wrestling match that you cannot miss. You're talking about Johnny wrestling versus the Prince, Finn Balor. It's going to blow the roof off of TakeOver Portland. Are you kidding me with this matchup? I don't think I've looked forward to a match this much in quite some time. And it's not even for a championship. They're going to go out there and they are going to steal TakeOver, and it's going to be fantastic. We had the first matchup in the Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic, which is right now my favorite tag team match of the whole entire year thus far. Pete Dunne and Matt Riddle, the Broserweights. I love that. I love that. Pete Dunne is putting Matt Riddle over for me. He's getting me to actually enjoy this guy. You all know, if you're longtime fans, I'm not 100% on the Matt Riddle train. I understand his value. I understand how good he is, but I have my things that make me just, not really a 100% fan of the guy. But this is helping. I love this tag team. I hope they win everything and that they end up being a tag team for a while. If you're not going to have Matt Riddle win the Royal Rumble, you're not going to have Pete Dunne in the championship scenarios going forward, or Matt Riddle for that matter, for the NXT championships, then put them in the tag team division. Let them be tag team champions and let them wrestle all the tag teams. And I would love it. I would be completely in on it. This matchup with Flash Morgan Webster and Mark Andrews was fantastic. It was fantastic. The chemistry between Riddle and Dunne cannot be denied. I love teams where they are complete opposites. And Matt Riddle is a charisma machine. He's out there dancing with his feet out and his little hat on sideways and whatever. And Pete Dunne is just standing there, all business. Serious as a heart attack. He's just out there to beat people up. And it comes across great. You see Pete Dunne looking at him like, what is this guy doing? Then at the end of it all, he's just like, yeah, whatever. I'm down. Let's just beat some ass. I think this is a great team, and I want it to go very far. Right now, they are my favorites to win this whole entire tournament, and hopefully it leads them down a great tag team run. This match was too good to even talk about. Me telling you all of these moves in succession, one after the other, does it no justice. If you did not watch NXT, go watch it. It's on Hulu. If you got Hulu, go check it out. If you have it on your DVR and you haven't checked it out yet, go watch it. The whole entire episode is worth every minute of your investment. This matchup is proof of that. They stole the show. Absolutely, as far as a match is concerned, and this was a show full of great matches. This was my favorite match on the night, my favorite tag team matchup of the year so far. My words do it no justice, so we're not going to go move for move, hold for hold. There was way too much to talk about anyway. But the finish was fantastic. Pete Dunne assists with a double team as they get the bro to sleep, and Riddle covers Andrews to get the pin. This was great. This was great. I really enjoyed all of it. So the next matchup coming in the second round, what is awaiting the Broserweights? The Imperium, a team that I'm sure Pete Dunne is more familiar with than they're letting on right now, but this is going to be a fantastic tag team matchup. The Imperium is tough as nails. I can't wait for this one as well. We got highlights of the Undisputed Era and their attack at UK TakeOver Blackpool 2 when they took out Walter and the Imperium following Walter's victory over Joe Coffey in the main event of the NXT TakeOver special over there in Blackpool. Definitely making their mark once again, as the theme of the Undisputed was all night long. They are showing you trying to take out their competition, leading into their encounter going into When Worlds Collide. So when we're not building TakeOver Portland, we are building When Worlds Collide with little things just like this. And showing us the highlight package did a whole lot more than having everybody on the show once again and doing some segment with the Undisputed and the Imperium. Instead, the Undisputed was laser focused on guys like Keith Lee and guys like Tommaso Ciampa, which it makes perfect sense. And everything just was great. It really was. There's nothing else really you could say. The one thing wrong with it, we highlighted about it. But other than that, this show was pretty flawless and very entertaining and interesting. We have Kathy Kelly backstage outside of the trainer's room. She says Keith Lee was rushed in that room after the attack on his leg by the Undisputed. She says this has put next week's title match with Roderick Strong in jeopardy, but hopes to have an update later on in the night. We'll have a lot more than an update from Keith Lee later on. Tommaso Ciampa comes out. He talks about the theme of the night, the Undisputed taking out their competition. He brings up the Velveteen Dream. He talks about the attack on the Imperium, and earlier tonight, the attack on Keith Lee. He says they have a hit list. It's very clear. But Ciampa says he has his own hit list. And Adam Cole, baby, is definitely number one on that hit list. He goes on about the fact that he's tired of waiting for Goldie and he wants his life back. And he's going to take it back. And then he drops the mic as the Undisputed Era rushes out to usher him a beat down, which is not what was going to play out by the time it was all said and done, thanks to an old friend. Johnny Gargano comes out to bail out Tommaso Ciampa. This would lead the fans to start chanting DIY. They would send the Undisputed packing, leaving us in a very precarious position with DIY because it was made known that Mustache Mountain has challenged DIY to put the band back together and have a matchup at When Worlds Collide. So here we are in one segment promoting both shows with all the players involved. How good is that? That's how you do your job. That's how you get people excited. Because not only are we looking forward to Tommaso Ciampa versus Adam Cole, we are going to now be looking forward to DIY versus Mustache Mountain. Two of the most ridiculous tag teams that ever have graced the squared circle in NXT. And this is a matchup for the ages. This is like a tag team fanboy's dream match if you've been a fan of tag team wrestling in NXT over the last couple of years. It's going to be freaking great. And they're building up to it very, very well. They did the double team DIY finisher on Bobby Fish to close this segment out. The Undisputed Era retreats. Gargano's music hits. I'm not a fan of Johnny Gargano's little theme music. I don't know. It's not about it being sung by a female. It just seems a little teeny boppy to me, you know, like coming out to Fall Out Boy or something. Like, you know, it's not cool. It's not cool. I'm not into that. But it's Johnny Gargano, so screw it, right? You just listen to it. The guy comes out. He's all smiles and all intensity and kicks ass in the ring. So, you know, what does it matter what he comes out to, right? Let's be honest. We come back from the break. Beth Phoenix shows us how Trent Seven tweeted about the match with DIY, which we now know is confirmed at this point. We get the second match in the Dusty Tag Team Classic featuring the Time Splitters making their return to Tag Team Division Wrestling versus the Grizzled Young Veterans, former NXT UK Tag Team Champions, the inaugural NXT UK Tag Team Champions. I am a huge fan of Zach Gibson. I don't know what it is, man. I watch this guy and I just love his shtick. I think he's great in the ring. James Drake is okay. He's a great little partner for Zach Gibson, but there's just something about that guy. I don't know. He just calls, like, I love the asshole characters, and he plays a really good asshole. So I'm into him, totally. On the flip side of the coin, Alex Shelley making his NXT debut is absolutely fantastic. Now, you guys might have all been marking out about the Time Splitters, but I have made it very well known on this channel that, especially during the time of the Time Splitters' height in New Japan, I was not watching nor was I interested in New Japan at all. So I was not familiar with Alex Shelley and Kushida and this Time Splitters gimmick. I am a big fan of Alex Shelley from his days in the Motor City Machine Guns back in TNA's heyday. His tag team with Chris Sabin, both of them hailing from Detroit Rock City, teamed up and changed tag team wrestling in TNA. They brought it to a whole new level. They are former tag team champions over there. It was really, really a fun time in wrestling back then when TNA was doing their thing. And they had teams like the Motor City Machine Guns to thank for that. They were tearing it up with the Young Bucks before the Young Bucks ever knew that they were going to be leading a whole wrestling company of their own. And it was really, really good stuff. So I was hopeful here that Alex Shelley and Kushida were going to get the win. I figured the Grizzled Young Veterans, NXT UK, they'll just end up going back over there. They're probably not going to go far in the Dusty Classic. And boy, was I wrong. And maybe this was a mistake. Maybe this is going to lead to a feud between this team in NXT UK. It did a great job building up towards When Worlds Collide and everything else that's going on, and the Dusty Classic continuing. But I question having Shelley losing in his first match. I know he's a veteran, he knows the game, and there's probably a bigger picture for it, I hope. But if this was just a one-shot for the Time Splitters and now they're going to go on their separate directions, maybe Alex Shelley's going to start Paparazzi Productions back up and go on a singles run in NXT, and that'll be fine with me. But I feel like it was a little bit of a, not a slight, not like they wanted to put him down or anything. It's just like a, I don't know. If that was my debut, I would be a little upset. I guess that's all I'm trying to say. I would have much rather had gotten the win and advanced at least once in this. You know, but hey, listen. They did what they did. The Grizzled Young Veterans got the win. Very impressive fashion. Very impressive. They got rid of Kushida. He was on the top rope, ready to do some sort of a flip. Zach Gibson comes running from the outside and pushes him off. He then throws Alex Shelley into, I don't even know how to describe it. James Drake picks up Alex Shelley and then just launches him into the air, and he ends up coming down on a double knee smash from Zach Gibson. Ends this matchup. They followed it up with a moment where they tried to shake hands, right? But Zach Gibson would not be having it. The Grizzled Young Veterans were like, we're not going to shake your hands. You guys were a tag team in the past. We are the tag team of the future. We are going forward in the Dusty Classic. And he just kind of talked some shit about the Time Splitters. And it was great. It was great. Their music is fantastic. I love the Grizzled Young Veterans music. It's just got a real nice hard beat to it. It feels like a great entrance song. I wouldn't mind if it was my entrance song if I was a pro wrestler. Some really good stuff here. Looking forward to the continuation of the Dusty Cup Classic. It's going to now feature the Grizzled Young Veterans in a high-profile matchup in the next round. It's going to be great. It's going to continue to be great. We see Chelsea Green and Robert Stone outside together. Stone says the NXT women's division is strong, but Chelsea Green is the best. He's talking about how she's the hottest former free agent, and now she's part of the Robert Stone brand. We'll see where this goes. We can't shit on it too much. At least it's something different than what we've been seeing everywhere else. Kind of. but recruiting people to organizations is the in thing right now. So I guess NXT is going to get in on the game as well. We had a great promo from Finn Balor. He's apparently going to be taking on Ilja Dragunov, who looks sick. I haven't been able to watch NXT UK the way I would like to, but this guy looks absolutely ridiculous. He's got crazy eyes going on, and he definitely looks like a mirror image of a young Finn Balor. They are set on a collision course for Worlds Collide, and that's going to be a hell of a matchup just from watching Finn Balor. He was sitting back watching highlights of Dragunov. And watching him watch the highlights made me want to see more of this kid. And if he's going to wrestle Finn Balor, it's going to be a hell of a matchup. Just from what you've seen here in the promo. Probably just as good of a matchup as the triple threat that we had to crown a new #1 contender for the NXT Cruiserweight Championship. The champion Angel Garza joined the announce team at ringside. And this was a fantastic triple threat match. Lio Rush shines out in this matchup. Would you be able to believe that WWE almost let this guy go? When you see what he could do in the ring, and you think about how they brought him to the main roster as nothing but a yip yip yap hype dog for Bobby Lashley, and you watch a match like this, and you got to think to yourself, why? Why? The same could be said for Tyler Breeze. Prince Pretty was once the Prince of NXT, and now he's walking around down there once again, and he's having matchups like this, and he's showing everybody in the world why they called him up in the first place, but he's also revealing how they failed with Tyler Breeze. Look how good these guys are. Isaiah Swerve Scott. Everybody's all over the Swerve, but I was watching Swerve when he was Shane Strickland and he came through House of Glory, and if you watched him on the Indies, you know that he's worthy of a performance that he was, well, not worthy, that he's capable of a performance like he put on here tonight. And by the time it was all said and done, Isaiah Swerve Scott would come out with the win, kind of stealing the win in a way, as Lio Rush did most of the damage, but Scott would end up hitting the JML driver on Tyler Breeze to get the win, and he now has a matchup against Garza and two NXT UK superstars yet to be decided in a fatal four-way matchup at Worlds Collide. It's going to be great. It's going to be great. At the end of everything, Scott was jib-jabbing over at Garza. They were kind of trading barbs, and then that would be the end for that segment. Backstage with Rhea Ripley. Rhea Ripley mentions how she's going to defeat Toni Storm at Worlds Collide, and it doesn't matter who she faces at TakeOver Portland because she's just going to beat them as well. She's not worried about who the winner of the Battle Royal is. This is her division now, and the nightmare has just begun. And I fully endorse Rhea Ripley using the nightmare word 100% more than I do in AEW, because they have taken the nightmare name and they are just running it into the ground. But at least over here in the WWE, it's the moniker of the baddest WWE champion in NXT for the women that we have had since Shayna Baszler, I guess. But her reign has only just begun, and it's going to be fantastic. We are backstage with Johnny Gargano. She asks about him saving Tommaso Ciampa earlier in the evening. Ciampa comes up and gets in on it. He thanks Johnny Gargano. They confirm the fact that they are going to team up against Mustache Mountain at Worlds Collide. The Undisputed Era then come into frame. They're screaming and yelling, and they want to get themselves a piece of DIY. They want to get back at Ciampa once again, when out of nowhere, Keith Lee would start pouncing security guards. He picked up one guy, he threw him into the windshield of a Mustang, and he went ballistic, screaming like a crazed beast at Roderick Strong, telling him that the prophecy comes to an end when he gets his hands on him next week. Next week we are going to have Keith Lee and Roderick Strong plus the semifinals of the Dusty Classic, and DIY versus Mustache Mountain was confirmed. The Battle Royal, we already somewhat went over. We're not going to talk about it too much more. We know now for a fact Bianca Belair is the new #1 contender and will be facing Rhea Ripley at NXT TakeOver Portland. It was a fun kind of battle royal. Like I said, it had its moments. It just seemed a little overcrowded. It was a little bit confusing at times. There were a few obvious botches, but we're not going to focus on all of that because at the end of the day, what we got is a great story to be told. And Bianca Belair is a badass, and she wants that championship. She's had her eye on the championship since before Rhea Ripley even earned her shot at Shayna Baszler. So this is going to be very good for the women's division going forward. I'm interested. I'm invested. I just don't like that they put Shayna Baszler in this battle royal. It was kind of unnecessary, so it's very unusual for us to give a poop hammer to anything, but the decision that they made there to bring her in on this was not the right one, if you ask me. They should have kept her off TV. They should have kept the surprise. They didn't need to put her in here, especially if she wasn't going to win. And all it did was take away from the other girls getting to have more time, getting to have bigger spots, and more eliminations for Belair. Maybe build up a couple of others like Io. Io Shirai, that's another thing that I want to just point out. She made the turn to heel, and she's never been better. Her entrance is sick, her music is great, and she just comes across as that villainous, and it's great. It's great. The genius of the sky, right? But the crowd's cheering her like a babyface. And it's like, come on, guys. Get your shit straight. You didn't want to cheer for Io. You didn't give a shit when she was a babyface. She turns heel, and now she's cool, and now everybody wants to cheer her. And I just don't understand it. I mean, know your role, as The Rock would say, as a fan. She's a heel. You know you could love her, but you know what the best way to love a heel is? By booing them. This way you don't confuse the performers, and you don't confuse the viewing audience. Somebody watching for the first time would think, oh, this must be a good girl. Look at how the crowd reacts to her. Chanting for her, popping big for her every time she did something. Sometimes fans, I just don't get you guys, man. I don't get you guys. You should be booing her with a smile on your face, like we used to do to Ric Flair and other classic heels back in the day. Randy Savage. You didn't really hate Randy Savage, but you booed him because he was the bastard. Because you knew your role as a fan. Other than that, there was not much wrong with NXT tonight. Thank you guys for joining us for our NXT review as we are leading into Worlds Collide and TakeOver, which are going to be two great shows we're going to have to cover right here on this channel as well. So make sure you don't miss that by subscribing and hitting those notification buttons right now. Become one of the over 2,000 plus that know when you want your wrestling news full of entertainment, full of fun, and honest opinions. Sledgehammer TV is the place to be. If you had a good time here on the show tonight, make sure you smash that like button. Share this video with each and every one of your wrestling buddies all over the wrestling world, especially if they need to know the one minor thing that was wrong with NXT tonight. Don't forget to share your thoughts and opinions down in the comment section below. I always appreciate all of your guys' feedback and look forward to seeing what you guys thought of tonight's episode of NXT. Well, not tonight, but last night's episode of NXT as well. Don't forget to join us later on this evening as we bring the hammer down on SmackDown like nobody else does here in the YouTube community, and I look forward to seeing you all then and there as we are on the road to the Royal Rumble. And I wonder how they're going to ruin it tonight. And I'm sure all you guys do as well. So we will see you later on for that. Don't forget to check out everything else on the channel that you might have missed, like the AEW review that went up, or the Monday Night Raw review, or our top most important wrestlers of the decade, or the countless other wrestling related videos that you can enjoy here on your new home for pro wrestling content, Sledgehammer TV. My name is Nick Nightmare. This is the Team Thor, the Sledgehammer, the official Sledgehammer of the Sledgehammer Wrestling Show. His tag team partner, the World Heavyweight Champion of all the microphones in all the world, Mr. Blue, the Snowball Microphone, who's right here, right over here, by the way. The most important member of the team, as always, is each and every one of you. That, my friends, is going to do it. And we are out of here. And we will see you next time right here on your new favorite wrestling show, the Sledgehammer Wrestling Show, only on Sledgehammer TV, right here on YouTube.com.